Council, please stand. Wednesday, May 24th, please stand for our invocation led by Father Ugu, Most Pure Heart of Mary Catholic Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence following the pledge.
Eternal Father of all that is possible and impossible, God of power and might, God of wisdom and justice, in your word we receive that all authority comes from you, and through you authority is rightly administered, laws enacted and judgment decreed. Assist with your spirit of counsel and fortitude the mayor and the membership of this city council. May they always seek the ways of righteousness, justice, mercy, honesty, and integrity. I ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you would, please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. Two requests this morning. One is for our Assistant Clerk, Mary Ann Merchant's family. Her nephew, Jarrett, recently died, and we just want to remember Mary Ann and her family in our prayers. Also, I know you have heard on the news about the horrible terror bombing in Manchester, England, and the number of victims from that. If you would please keep those victims and families in your prayers during this moment of silent prayer, if you would, please. Thank you.
Roll call, President Gregory.
Here.
Vice President Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Manzi.
Here.
Councilmember Small.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Daves.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Statement of rules.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's good to see you here as we lead into a Memorial Day weekend coming up. We have had a busy week last week, and of course another busy week coming up here in the city of Mobile. Last week we had a couple of very important groundbreakings and dedications. One was for the new 2nd Police Precinct. The other was for a new Crichton Fire Station. And we also participated in the annual Law Enforcement Memorial Service, where we had a chance to see an unveiling of what will become a memorial wall at Public Safety Park. District Attorney Ashley Rich unveiled that during this service, and it will be a spectacular wall at Public Safety Memorial Park to honor all of those in law enforcement who have gone before us. This coming Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the ceremonial courtroom, we will swear in our brand new fire chief, Mark Seeley. We look forward to seeing that as well as meeting more of his family. The public is invited to that again. That's in the ceremonial courtroom, which is just across the atrium over there. On June 27th, we will hold our last off-site council meeting. It will be at Burroughs Elementary School at 6 o'clock p.m. That's in District 4, Mr. Williams' district. We've been doing these off-site meetings throughout this term to allow people a better opportunity in some cases to attend our council meetings and to come into the district so that everyone will get a chance to see some of our facilities and the community itself. So again, that will be Burroughs Elementary School, 6 o'clock p.m. on June 27th, and we'll keep reminding everyone so that nobody forgets and turns up here at 10:30 on that day. On our agenda today, we have some exciting items that council members are certainly all looking forward to, including some parks and resurfacing work that is coming up. But also on today's agenda, we will vote on an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of the St. Luke's Episcopal School's application for a planned unit development. We heard from both the appellant and the applicant last week during a public hearing, but we held up a vote on that to give everyone on the council more time to get information and to ask some more questions. And since the appeal is back on the agenda as any agenda item, people can sign in to speak at the door. That's our rule for the council. So what we will allow today is speakers from both sides. I understand there are about 4 who have signed up. So if that is 2 from the appellant side, 2 from the applicant side, then I think that would be a good mix. Since we have already heard the arguments last week, we didn't want to go through the entire thing again, but 2 from either side I think would be perfect today. So if you will work among yourselves and determine who will speak, we'd appreciate that. We will soon begin to see some resurfacing, more resurfacing going on in the city of Mobile, and that's thanks to the county's pay-as-you-go program. You might remember during the 2016 election on your ballot, there was an item about the county's pay-as-you-go program, and it indicated a number of streets that would be resurfaced and work done if you voted in favor of that. So thankfully, everybody voted in favor. And very soon we will see more resurfacing going on in the city of Mobile. Again, that's thanks to the county's pay-as-you-go program, and we are very grateful to the county for making this possible. We also have some applications for grants for sidewalks in a couple of neighborhoods, and these are to allow the city to move forward with applications, and then we'll just have to wait to see if those are approved. We also, this is last but certainly not least in our eyes, we have some contracts to make improvements at parks throughout the city, and those will be in districts 2, 3, and 6. So we look forward to all of those. The rules of the council are very simple. We just ask everyone to please turn off your electronic devices. If you come to the podium to speak, you'll have 5 minutes. At the end of 4 minutes, you'll hear the buzzer, and that's your indication that it's time to begin wrapping up your comments. Please give us your name and address for the record. And if you have any comments or questions, please address those to me. I'm the chair. We don't want you getting into any sort of arguments with anybody on the council. Please address all of those to me, and I'll try to straighten those out as we go forward. So again, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Look forward to meeting some of our guests today. All right, Ms. Lambert.
Approval of minutes of May 16, 2017.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Communications from the mayor.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see everybody this morning. I'd first like to read a proclamation to everyone. I'll have to be leaving here shortly to attend a retirement party for Chief Billy Pappas, and I have a proclamation that I'll present to Chief Pappas. The proclamation reads, whereas William A. Pappas, Assistant Chief of the Mobile Fire Rescue Department, will officially retire on May 30th, 2017 after 37 years of dedicated service to the city of Mobile. And whereas in 1977 he began as an ambulance attendant, EMT, and paramedic with Newman's Ambulance Service before joining the city in 1980 as a firefighter. And whereas Chief Pappas rose through the ranks to be the assistant chief and served dutifully as the interim fire chief during extraordinarily challenging times, helping the city to take advantage of many opportunities and overseeing game-changing developments. And whereas Chief Pappas has been an outstanding asset not only to the city, but also to our region, as can be attested by the many awards, the commendations, and letters of appreciation. Now, therefore, I, William S. Stimson, the 108th Mayor of the City of Mobile, on behalf of all Mobilians, do offer our sincerest thanks and best wishes to Chief Billy Pappas, done this 24th day of May 2017. So I will present that to Chief Pappas within the hour.
Hey, Mayor, I know Chief Pappas is not in the audience, but with 37 years under his belt and as Assistant Chief, I think we owe him a round of applause. So if everybody would.
Thank you. One item I'd like to point out, this morning we woke up to a news story about Uber, where Uber had pointed to me and the mayor of Huntsville as killing legislation preventing other citizens in the state from having the opportunity to have Uber. Well, that's not the truth. The fact of the matter is that earlier this year we sat down with Uber and told them we were all for them expanding all across the state, but that we already had an agreement with Uber and that we would like to be excluded from the legislation or grandfathered by the legislation according to the contract that we had. That is not the story they told. The same is true for Huntsville. And so please just be aware, and we will rebut the article that they put out. We're grateful to have Uber in the city of Mobile, but we don't like to be falsely accused of something that we have not done. And we hope that next year, that as they proceed to try to get Uber scattered across the state, that they will understand we like the agreement that we have with them. We worked hard to get that agreement. We were the first city in the state to give them the opportunity to be here. And so we wish them well, but we would hope they would respect our decision. I would just touch on a couple of things that President Gregory said. You know, the new fire station in Fred Richardson's district, as he pointed out the other day, was that it was in the exact right location. Is that right, Councilman?
Right.
Absolutely. It's in the exact right location in Crichton. But I will say this, that just to remind you, we tore down a fire station that was 60 years old. It was the corner of Weston Drive and Moffett Road, and it really was becoming a safety issue because of the age of the facility and the mold that was in it and so forth. So we demolished it, and we're grateful to be able to start the construction of this new fire station, and I know we have a lot of firefighters and rescue personnel that are excited about it also. Regarding the second precinct, you know, the second precinct, for those that you don't know, it's out in the Tillman's, it covers part of the Tillman's Corner area. And this will be the first time that the second precinct has had a centrally located precinct headquarters, centrally located in that precinct. There are a lot of citizens in that area that have felt like that they had been left out. And so hopefully by July, when that precinct opens, that we will have put our policemen in closer proximity to those that they're serving, instead of driving back and forth, wasting time, wasting fuel, wearing vehicles out, because the headquarters, or the precinct 2, was located close to the art museum, which was not in the precinct. So anyway, a big move, a lot of grateful people that live in precinct 2, hoping that they'll see the presence of our first responders on a more frequent basis, which they will. A couple items on the YES initiative. I think we've been talking about the YES initiative for several months now, which is true, but we're coming up to the point where the rubber's going to meet the road. And what I mean by that is yesterday my understanding is that we interviewed 200 plus young people, and we'll interview 400 today. And the idea is that we will have about 100 of them that we're trying to get jobs in the Gulf Shores area. They'll go through training provided by the University of South Alabama. Mobile County Public School System will help transport them to Gulf Shores, or they'll get them to Baldwin County, and then BART will take them to these businesses where they'll be working. But there's a lot of future, a lot of opportunity in the area of hospitality for our young people, and this is a step, first off, for them to find out if this is something they enjoy doing, and if this program is successful, we hope to be training more young people next year to give them the opportunity to fill a void that is over in that area for summertime work. So a great move there, but then we'll also have about 90 of our young people who will be embedded in city government, working in the various departments. They'll undergo training about what's expected of them as employees. And anyway, it's an opportunity again to hopefully put them on a pathway to a future, a bright future. We're glad to be a part of that, and we're got our fingers crossed that all this is going to be hugely successful and help better our community. Thank you very much, Madam President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Monthly finance report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, there is a City Council Finance Committee meeting this afternoon, so I won't belabor you with statistics and facts and figures this morning. Rather, I would like to thank you. One, for standing together. Number two, for standing with our mayor. And number three, for your engagement of our legislative delegation through this regular session that the mayor just touched on. You know, in addition to the Uber challenge that was an attempt to impair the jurisdictional prerogatives of the city, we had a number of other challenges that were financial in nature. We had a gas tax that, with your help, we tried to make the legislation as tolerable as we could, but in the final analysis, it was a bad bill. And it did die, but for a while, we had a chance of forever having a second position when it comes to tax revenue from gasoline. There was a prescription drugs bill that would have relieved smaller pharmacies from having to pay business licenses like the rest of businesses do. This sounded like an attempt to do good by relieving people who depend upon medications from having to pay additional costs, but it was a thinly veiled attempt by members of the legislature who happen to own drugstores to relieve themselves of a liability for paying business license fees and to put them into a position of superiority over their peers. We had also bills that sought to do away with some or portions of lodgings taxes, right-of-way fees, and home health care expenditure fees, and all of those failed. But in defending those, it really took the efforts of everybody in this room, the council and the mayor, and thank you very much for that. There is one other piece of, or one other resolution on the agenda that touches on the annual levy, and that's important this year because this for the first time extends the ad valorem tax imposition from the city into the 27 annexation along Schillinger Road. It'll result in about a $395,000 additional revenue source for the city. Next year, that same thing will happen with the Tillman's Corner annexation piece that was a 2008 annexation. So thank you for supporting that and passing that. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Wesh? All right, we will see you later on at 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Ms. Lambert?
Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Richardson has, Mr. Richardson, go ahead. Well, that's what Mr. Richardson's.
Yes.
The minutes got to be approved, and then we have to,
Madam President, in addition to adopting the agenda, I move that we move presentation of petition and other communications to the council to the front of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of moving the presentations and petitions to the top of the agenda? Aye. All right, let's go back to the proposal as amended. Ms. Lambert? Which is adoption of the agenda.
Oh, sorry. Lost it here for me. Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
second.
All right, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
The reason for the confusion on this is normally we hear from petitions and people who sign in to speak at the door a little later on in our agenda, but because one of the items that people want to speak on would actually come before you actually get a chance to speak, we thought it would be better to move everything to the top of the agenda. So that's what we are doing. All right, go ahead, Ms. Lambert.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Ms. Anton.
My name is Irene Anton, and I need the chair, the assistant chair then, to give me permission to talk to the administrative chair.
You have to address the chair, Ms. Anton.
Sir?
You have to address the chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
First, I have to commend the mayor for the first time telling us that he have to go somewhere instead of getting up, leaving, and we go outside to talk to him about stuff, and he gone. Okay. The next.
Address the chair. I'm the
Oh,
chair.
oh, that's right.
Yeah, I am the chair.
You are the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
The chair is sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, in addition to that, all that stuff on TV about the voting area and all that qualifications and the different sessions that was on the news about the mayor's people, did you see that?
It's not city business, Ms. Anton. You got to stick with city business.
Okay, city business about the mayor. And he shouldn't have had that on there with this coming up a voting time, and it's saying that we, Afro-Americans, I don't know whether I'm Afro-American or not,
Ms. Anton,
Yes.
he didn't spend any city money to do that. That's personal, whatever. That's some news.
okay, we'll let that go.
outlet. Okay.
Okay. The awards that of $500 had been given to different people from different stuff, was that given by their supervisor or something? Because I know of a situation in the city where a young man could be in Austin, Texas, and something happened to the computers. They explained it, and he can get the computers or whatever back where, working. But now, I don't know whether his supervisor have recommended that he get it or not, but I'll leave that alone. Okay. Mr. Mance's, on Joachim Street, we have had got all the garbage cans off. Now they are back out there, and we have visitors coming and looking, and those garbage cans are right back out there. We thought we had got them off. So Mr. Mancy know about it, sir.
Okay.
Okay. About the person who give us the financial report. Many, many years ago, that tell you I'm old. We get a financial report for the city, but a little bit of this and a little bit of this. That ain't telling us nothing. You all know about it, but we in the city don't know what he's talking about. I was an accountant for 40 years, and the lady that left here, that used to be, she gave y'all papers, and we could explain it and all that, but I'm just sitting up there hearing something, or we gonna meet this evening and we gonna do this. So those situations, I feel, need to be addressed. And
Well, let me just say this, Ms. Anton.
yes, sir.
He didn't have much time to give his report, but at 2 o'clock, we're going to have a finance committee meeting where the public can come.
I know that.
Ask any question about
The
finances.
public can come to the 2 o'clock meeting?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
We don't have private. The law will not allow us to have private meetings. All of our meetings are public.
Okay, well, I apologize to him, Mr. Richardson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, at the Singer Theater, we have our nice lights. I saw tourists, and I spoke to them and talked to them, but we don't have anything showcasing us in that area. We just have a chair or something. It's not beautiful like it used to be.
How much time is that?
She's got
See, I'm talking so the time don't go off.
Okay.
All right, but seriously, I'm here for those reasons. And I know that this is the city's business, or the police department, because we got bike trails. When you gonna finish yours? Oh, you got bike trails, and the kids are meeting the cars instead of going with the cars. But sometimes I ask them, or stop them if I know them, and tell them they're on the wrong side of They're on the wrong side of the street. Oh, well, you see what I'm doing, right? You see what I'm trying to do. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Antone.
Thank you, Ms. Antone. For those that don't know, Ms. Antone is the Good Shepherd designated by our Vice President for the city, Vice President of the Council for the city of Mobile, and occasionally gives us a report on what she has observed during the between times. So it's a little different than the normal when somebody signs up for a particular item. Ms. Antone is given some leeway based on her title. Thank you.
All right, Ms.
Lucy
Lambert.
Smith.
Lucy? Is it telling me I'm through already? Lucy Smith, 522 Osage Street, Mobile, Alabama, District 2. Good morning.
Morning.
I, along with others, have come again to address the mayor and council on behalf of Oakland Cemetery. The complaint is the same as before because I have not noticed any improvement of the perpetual care for this cemetery. I speak, or maybe I should say, I scream on behalf of the cemetery because it's dear to my heart. And they, the people there, cannot speak. The home they have is not one they asked for. Yet, this is their final resting place. Debris and overgrown everywhere. And in short, a disgrace to them and us and those who say and want to say, and I quote, "Make Mobile beautiful," unquote. Today, I would like for this body to explain what are the steps that have been done and what can be done and will be done to eradicate this problem for us, those that are concerned and here today, and those that are concerned and not here. For example, Friends of Oakland, on holding the owner accountable and giving us peace of mind. And if you would just let me have a moment to have the people that have come stand, and then I will sit and let someone explain to us what I have asked, what has been done, what will be done on behalf of Oakland Cemetery and the deplorable conditions that are there, that continues year after year to go on.
All right, if you were here in support of the Oaklawn Cemetery issue, please stand. I know some of you have come from out of town. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Manzi?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Andrew Oliver has traveled here from California to speak on this issue, and in light of the fact that Ms. Smith did not utilize all of her time, I'm going to ask that we would hear from him, if you all would indulge me.
All right, a couple of minutes, Mr. Oliver, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Madam President, council members, Mrs. Smith. I actually started and got involved in trying to do something about this cemetery many years ago when I was here in Mobile trying to do something else. One of the things that I wanted to do was to restore that cemetery. Cleaning it up, as Mrs. Smith has suggested, is not going to solve the problem. As you all know, that cemetery pretty much is built in a swamp. And if you're African American descent in this room, you got a relative over there somewhere. No matter what you say, she used the word a disgrace. For those of us who have survived or still living, it is a disgrace for us to think the leadership of the African American heritage of Mobile, Alabama is buried in that swamp. We have to do something about it. The ownership has a way of getting around it because he didn't sell a perpetual maintenance grave. He left it to the ancestors, to the followers to do it. We all left grandmother here to take care of the grave. When grandmother died, the grave just continued. You go over there, there are graves that are open. Please give me another minute.
Okay, just
The
please.
graves that are open, that where you can literally see coffins. And you go back to the back end and you're actually in the swamp. I came here for her husband's funeral, my best friend. I stood in mud up to my ankles to inter him. God bless her for being able to move his body. She got him out of there. Thank you. But what I had done was put together a proposal, and I talked to the owner about taking control of that cemetery, volunteered to raise the money, do a nonprofit to rebuild that cemetery and turn it into a memorial park. For a long time, he talked to me because the courts was on his case about allowing me to do it. He implied that he was going to do it. Then, lo and behold, I think he discovered that a portion of that cemetery is still potentially available for commercial use. Now, to this council, somehow I believe that that is in the back of his mind, that he's going to pod along until he can make money off of the remaining pieces of property.
Madam President.
If you do nothing else, please do not allow that to happen. You should not allow any new graves to be sold over there or any new people to be buried there until that is done. Or put him in a position where he allowed me or some of this
Mr.
group.
Williams, I hear you. Mr. Oliver, we appreciate you coming. We actually bent the rules to allow you to speak because Ms. Smith had signed in ahead of time and we didn't know you were coming and so you had not. So thank you for coming. We appreciate it. We hear you, and I'm sure the mayor and his legal staff hear you as well, because what you were talking about is something that this council has no authority to deal with. So we have to turn to our administration to help us with those issues. Right? No, ma'am, sorry. But Mr. Manzi is here. He is your liaison as well, and I know he's been talking with you, and he will do everything he can to help you all do what you need to do and work with the administration. Hang on, Mr. Small.
Madam President, I would like to say that, Oakland is, dear to my heart too. We have many African Americans that's buried there that was prominent in our community, such as the Blunts and the Kennedys and et cetera. As our president has stated that, the council, we're not administrative, we just legislate. I wish I could personally do something and hire somebody to go out there and cut the grass, but the law forbids us from doing that. But I do know that Councilman Manzi, and I am supporting him in every kind of way, have been reaching out to the administration, and he even tried to look for grants for historical cemetery to take care of it. I do know that Manzi has also reached out to other people trying to make this a historical cemetery. But anything that Reverend Manzi decided to do, I'm with him 110%, because again, Oakland is dear to my heart also with our history, the African American history that is buried in that cemetery. But I do lean upon the administration to go ahead with this effort. And again, I'm here to support not only Councilman Manzi, but the cemetery and the history that the African Americans do have in that particular cemetery. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Small. Mr. Manzi, did you want to?
Yes, Madam President. I first want to thank Ms. Smith, Mr. Oliver, and everyone who's come from the vicinity of Oaklawn Cemetery to down here to City Hall to express your concerns about the dilapidated condition that the graveyard currently finds itself in. And I appreciate the support of Councilman Small and others on this council and the administration in trying to find a remedy. Just to give you a brief history, I've engaged with the county work release individuals to see whether or not they could go and to prepare the cemetery and cut down some of the weeds and the things that are there. Because it's privately owned and not under a nonprofit, they could not get involved. We sought out nonprofit grants to try to take care of its condition. None of that has come to fruition. And so, I feel similar to you all, that something needs to be done. It's private property. So the city's hands are tied in many respects. But I'm hopeful, as I was reading a couple of days ago, that Jefferson County recently passed some legislation dealing with historic cemeteries. I don't know if that's something that Mr. Rossler, on behalf of the council, and Mr. Woods, on behalf of the administration, could look at and see if that would be a positive avenue. But I do agree with the citizens here and the residents here that something needs to be done, and I wish there was a way that we could hold the property owner accountable for the property that he owns. He's currently allowing burials to continue, so someone's collecting those resources, and whoever is collecting those resources, I would assume would also be responsible for making certain that that cemetery isn't kept in a better condition than it currently is. And I join Councilman Small in saying, if there was, if we looked at allocating discretionary funds, talked with Commissioner Messere Ludgood about creating some kind of an entity, none of that worked out from a legal perspective. So I understand your frustration. And so I'm going to, it appears Mr. Woods has something he might want to offer, and I'm certainly interested in hearing it.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Woods.
echo both you and Mr. Menzies' sentiments, and this is not a city matter because it is privately owned property. That being said, no one has actually said the name of the owner, and it's important, I think, that we recognize that this is a civil matter. I happen to know because of other engagement that he is being pursued civilly in other areas dealing with these graveyards because those are not regulated by the city. And I'd be happy to get the name and information to a representative if you want to do that. But this is not a city matter, neither a council matter or an administration matter, but it can be handled in another way in a civil capacity, and probably should be. That's the best route. Mr. Manzi has gone through a very lengthy exchange trying to help, even though it's not a city responsibility. And he's tried, and we have not been able to deal with it because of the regulations. But there are other regulations for other entities that we may be able to direct you to.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a question,
Mrs. Wrench?
some commentary. I don't know all the nuances about applying for a historic grant for a cemetery, but I know there is a commission on a state level that does review and make designations. Now, I don't know if that means the owner has to come forward and give the paperwork, but I don't know whether the city can help with that in some manner. But there is a body that reviews it. It has to be a certain age. You have to document that there were leadership, families, criteria, but it is a formula that it can be designated. And once you designate something in that category, certain things have to go on. Preservation, upkeep, things like cell towers and commercialization cannot happen around because it's really gets preserved, so to speak. And I didn't know whether any entity could look at that or whether it has to come from the owner who obviously is not cooperative. I do not know that part, but I think it's a tool that could possibly be utilized.
Just as a quick response, we've investigated that route because the city is not in ownership of the property. we didn't have any standing in moving forward with an application.
So it would have to
We have a deadbeat cemetery owner, is what we have. And until he, and you know, I'm being, not wanting to call his name because everybody knows who it is, until he is willing to step forward and do something progressively or until he's forced to do something progressively. We're going to continue to have citizens like Ms. Smith and Mr. Oliver and the contingent who come here from District 2 complaining about this cemetery.
Mr. Woods, does the owner of the cemetery have to have a city business license like other businesses?
Yes, and so that is one way. That's the only way that the city deals with this respect. So it's what we're dealing with is not necessarily the regulation of the business, but what the complainants are talking about is specifically this gentleman not taking care of the property. And that's not something that we regulate. But business entity licenses, that's something that we deal with all the time. And so this is not only so it's Reverend Woods. So we're talking about no relation to me. So, but there is associated with the funeral home. There's also a funeral parlor that associated with the graveyard. So that's something that we may want to look at, and that is definitely an option.
Well, but we are not, as a city, able to hold him accountable for maintaining his property like we do other businesses.
That's right. It's because it is a cemetery.
A cemetery.
So.
Well, we don't really have any, that's nothing that we have any authority over either. I'm sorry, Mr. Oliver. Us allowing somebody to sell property is not anything the city can or cannot do. That is not in our purview. Mr. Oliver, anything else, Mr. Woods?
That is all, Madam Chair.
All right. Mr. Richardson?
Yes, Madam President. It's sort of like a catch-22, where the owner of the cemetery has alleged that he sells plots. And when he sells the plot, the responsibility for keeping that plot up is on the shoulders of the person who, so when we say we're like for the city to go out there and force it cleaned up, the city would have to round up every person who owns a plot and force them to go to the cemetery to clean up their own plot. Now, perpetual cemetery would mean that the cemetery owner is responsible for keeping the cemetery up. That's not what we have out there. We have people who take their loved ones out there and leave them and they don't come back. But they own that piece of property. And that's what the owner is going to say, that I sell plots. They have a deed to their plot, and it's their responsibility. So one thing can happen, you see, is to get a list of who own all of those plots, find out who it is, because we're not going to get nowhere pursuing the man who owns the cemetery, because he has to keep up the unsold land that he has unsold, he has to keep that up. But on those pieces of property where he has sold and gave them a deed for that, it is the property owner's responsibility. And the reason we can't get any grants, because no one is going to give grant money that might help an individual. Let's say somebody give $1 million, they clean it up real good. That means more people are going to want to be buried over there, and the owner of the cemetery is going to make even more money. So we're not going to get one grant because it's not publicly owned. So it's a difficult situation, and this council has absolutely no authority over that. If those individuals are going to be pursued who own that property over there, have to be pursued by the administration. We don't have any authority over it. Just want to put that in.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question.
Mrs. Rich, go ahead.
Only because I'm hearing about what the owner, basically says, that once those plots are sold, then his maintenance isn't required, and I don't know what kind of agreements people signed. And is it possible for collectively for that group to come together and form a 501c3 and become an umbrella organization? Is that something they could do as individuals and family members?
For selling the new plots?
And then they could apply for these mechanisms on behalf of their relatives having individual plots but collectively working together?
So that's a possibility, but what we're talking about is a number of sites that don't have anybody that's responsible for them. That's what we're dealing with.
But I think what
That's
Mrs.
part
Rich
of the
might be
problem.
alluding to is if the new owners and maybe some of those families of people who have been building, buried there in the past, could come together and form a 501c3, then they could get grants and raise money that could then possibly help with the entire.
I think that's what the gentleman who spoke was alluding to, and yes,
Okay.
that is a possibility.
That
Okay.
needs- They need to.
Yeah, that sounds like that might be good direction.
Madam President,
To go, Mr.
again,
Manzi?
I'm going to ask if Jim Rossler, our council attorney, along with Mr. Woods, would review that recently passed legislation that passed for Jefferson County dealing with a very similar situation and see if that would not be applicable here in Mobile and if it would not be advantageous for us to work with our local delegation to see if we could replicate that legislation here. Because one of the points that I hear is that each person bought a lot, they're responsible for their own lot. I get that. I think what we aren't taking into account is that there are many who are buried out there whose family members have died off. Or either they're of an age where they're not, or of a financial status where they're not in a position to take care of the lot. And so I guess my next question would be, should the surrounding communities have to put up with what's there because someone who purchased the lot no longer has family members to maintain the lot?
Now, those are all questions that we can't answer and resolve at this meeting, but it's something that I know Mr. Manzi will work on with Mr. Woods and Mr. Rossler and try to help you as much as possible. All right?
Okay.
Terry Holt.
Who was that, Lisa?
Oh, you want? These, okay, these are, this is regarding the.
Why don't you save the St. Luke's, the speakers till the end, and let's go ahead and take care of the others? Okay.
Craig Stipes.
That's the public hearing for the rezoning.
Is he here?
Yes, he's
Oh, okay,
here, but
okay.
are we gonna call that separate?
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
save the St. Luke speakers till the end of,
They're not just generically addressed as an agenda item. He's here for the public hearing.
So the, okay. Jesse Graham did not state what they, he or she signed up to address.
Jesse Graham, are you in the audience? Okay, would you like to come to the podium?
As long as it's not the public hearing.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Just Graham from Kim Avenue. I just want to know, is everything okay? I got everything work out.
Pardon me?
About the building, I'm building out there on Kim Avenue.
Oh, the
They
Kim
sent me-
Avenue,
Oh, that
yes.
came to
They
us.
sent me down there. I wanted
We're gonna table that.
Yes, we are going to table that at the request of Mr. Doggenbaugh. He said that you have got a permit to start working on it,
yeah,
so we're going to table that.
okay, thank you.
Great, thank you for coming.
Okay. Okay, so now we're ready for the, St. Luke's, the, appeals.
Okay.
Okay, appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of St. Luke's Episcopal Schools application for a planning unit development to allow multiple buildings on a single building site and planning approval for new lighting, sound system, and bleachers for the athletic area. And we have Kurt Shaw. Or did you all decide on two?
Yeah, we're going to have
Okay.
two speakers from either side? Okay. So if Ms. Lambert calls your name and you're not one of the ones that wants to speak, just, let us know, and whoever wants to speak can come to the podium.
Madam President and council members, my name is Kirk Shaw. My wife and I live at 5309 Oak Bend Court. I know you don't want to hear all the argument, but to summarize why we say the Planning Commission acted arbitrarily, it is we residents of Zach Logan Estates and Oak Bend Courts who are appealing this contend that the Planning Commission acted arbitrarily in, one, failing to follow or set any standard as to the amount of light trespass, if any, to be allowed at the boundary lines of the neighborhoods. Two, in not requiring adherence to the complete zoning ordinance in residential districts, section 39-96.1. And three, in allowing the school to use its stadium 65 nights per year, as requested in its application. Now, without taking away from our opposition to the Planning Commission's action in its entirety, we respectfully request that the following changes be made to or additions made to the conditions that the Planning Commission approved. Condition number one, in their statement of conditions, is vaguely written. It refers to the noise ordinance, but in a vague manner. So we suggest that that be amended to read that they comply with the City of Mobile's noise ordinance, section 39-96.1, period. That eliminates the ambiguity. And on the subject of noise, the problem is going to be greatest in the fall, during football season. And without going through the math in detail, the school has only a high school varsity team now. No junior varsity, no middle school. The high school team, varsity team, can play 7 games at home, 5 regular season, 2 of the playoff games. So it's a total of 7 needed. If the middle school were to play at night, and it was indicated in the testimony that they would not likely play at night, they would only have 4 home games. So we respectfully request that the number of nights that the school can use in the fall be specifically specified to 11 nights. Third, lights. The Planning Commission has not set a standard, and so we respectfully ask that a standard be set at 0.7 candlefoots at the property line. My understanding of the testimony of the Musco representative was that that was the best that they could do. We argued for LED lights to be used, and the argument was made, well, nobody in the state, no high school in the state uses LED lights. That has changed as of last week. The Planning Commission approved the application of Mobile Christian to use LED lights on their softball stadium and bring the amount of light trespass down considerably from what has occurred here, which was as high as 6 candlefoots. This would be a standard that could be set and needs to be enforced. Now, the school has agreed, on another subject, the school has agreed that they will not have any Saturday night or Sunday night games, or at least they made that representation in our meeting with them. We would ask that that be written into the conditions for their approval if it is approved. Also, that there would be no leasing, renting, or otherwise allow any other school or entity to use its field at night. And we would ask finally that there be a committee set up of neighbors and school representatives to review neighborhood concerns and complaints that might occur. I would ask those in attendance here today. Unfortunately, Mr. Dinkins couldn't be here today because of a doctor's appointment out of town. But we have representatives from both Zach Logan Estates and Oak Bend Court here, and I would ask you, if you're supportive of this position, please stand. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, and thank you for coming. All right, Ms. Lambert?
Marianne Robinson.
Yes.
My name is Marianne Robinson. I live at 5313 Oak Bend Court. I do hope that you will consider Mr. Shaw's proposal. And in the event that you do not, I would like the record to reflect what I'm about to say. This case has been tainted from the very beginning, from 2009 all the way up to the present. A conflict of interest has existed between St. Luke's, Mr. Rossler, Mr. Anderson, the Planning Commission, and the City Council. And even if someone were to recuse himself or herself at this point, it is too late. The influence is already there. In 2009, the opposing homeowners entered into an agreement with St. Luke's and reached a settlement. In return for withdrawing their objective to the PUD application, they were given the right to maintain the buffer area. Regardless of how small it is, it does help to block some of the sound. Yet presently, they assigned that right to do whatever they wanted with the buffer to homeowners that purchased their houses after 2009 and were not party to that agreement. I am not blaming those homeowners. They may not have even known about that, but they gave them permission to do whatever they wanted, take down the fence if they want, cut back what has been growing that we chose to consider as maintained by allowing it to continue to grow since 2009 up until the present. So that contract has been breached. St. Luke's PUD applications is clearly violating the noise ordinance. It is the City Council's responsibility to uphold their own ordinances, and therefore does not have the authority to allow the pending applications to be approved. I think that after last week of spending so much time on the noise ordinance, our pleas still were not heard, because when you watch the Mobile Christian Planning Commission meeting, which we were constantly being referred to as a case, it is still, I think the Planning Commission is still unclear on the meaning of arbitrary, because they kept trying to say that we were trying to be equal in regard to what they gave them and what was being done in this case. We're not trying to be equal, we're trying to follow the law, the laws that were established by the city. So I want that on the record. If you do not consider Mr. Shaw's proposal, then I would like for you to take all of that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lambert?
Mr. Brandyburg.
No, that's fine.
Thank you again to the City Council. My name is Terry Holton from St. Luke's School. I'm the chairman of the Facilities Committee. I am also a parent, and one of the things I'd just like to address, a lot of talk has happened about the noise levels at St. Luke's. I live approximately 2 blocks from St. Dominic's. I can hear everything that happens at St. Dominic's. Now, the important thing there is I am legally deaf under the statutes of the state of Alabama. I read lips. I have 45% hearing in one ear uncorrected. So I can hear everything from St. Dominic's. The important thing here is that St. Dominic's is well within the city ordinance as far as 85 dB. You have to understand sound levels to understand exactly what that means. We have children in our school that cannot hear the bell, that cannot hear the announcements, that there are those that say they can hear them off our property. So I'd really like to address that. I guess for public is that we will comply with the 85 dB level. We have no intention of breaching that whatsoever. Our school has many, many positive things to talk about. And you have heard this project. We started this project in this room in March. Here we are 4 times later in the same room. We know what we're talking about. We know why we're here. I'd like you to know just a little bit about who you're voting for. We just graduated our 5th graduating class. 100% of our seniors have been blessed and accepted to colleges. Scholarship money totals over $4.5 million. It's an average of $109,000 per student. 11 seniors have scored 30 or higher on their ACTs. 17 were accepted to honors colleges. 178 applications were sent to 72 different schools in 24 states and 1 in Spain. 32 of 43 students received scholarship money, 74%. We had 1 National Merit finalist, and we had a National Merit Letter of Commendation. The importance of that is that these kids work very, very hard. You have worked very hard. Our commission has worked very, very hard. The staff asked the commission to review the facts and make a vote based on the merits of our program. We ask that you uphold that vote from the commission. We know that you worked hard. We know that they worked hard. We have said all along, we want to do the right thing. We will do the right thing in all things. We hope and pray that we will be given the opportunity without restriction, but we understand there's a 65-night restriction. That number is calculated from the Alabama High School Athletic Association. That's not just a number we made up. That includes 15 rain-out nights. We can't do anything about that. The good Lord blesses us with rain. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here. We thank you, and we hope that you will uphold the vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
James Brandenburg.
Madam President and council members, thank you. I'm James Brandenburg. I live at 2600 Sedgefield Place here in Mobile. One of the important things is that we should consider is this is an appeal of a planning commission decision, and the planning commission is put in place for a particular reason. And so they go through this whole process with regard to the review of the request that St. Luke's made, and also put in certain restrictions or whatever that the board, that the council is fully aware of. And so the initial position of the community behind St. Luke's was that the decision of the planning commission was arbitrary and capricious. Well, it's obvious that the process was gone through and certain restrictions were put in that St. Luke's has agreed to abide by. And St. Luke's has taken into consideration the position of our neighbors, and when we started this process, we invited them every time that we went through this process, we met with them to discuss their concerns. I think it's important for the council to know that in that community, we have St. Luke's families, parents and children who go to St. Luke who fully support this project. The other thing is that Mobile is a community. It's a community of schools. And we hear people talk all the time about how important it is for our children to be able to do this and to do that and to do the other thing. Well, St. Luke's children are a part of this community as well. And we do understand that there are certain inconveniences that we experience when we are dealing with certain things, but we know they are a necessity. For example, a speed bump. I hate speed bumps, but I also know that they are put there for a particular reason. And so we have to abide by, there are certain things that I have to suffer through. And so we're not disregarding the feelings of our neighbors. We're just saying that we think that our children are important, and this is an important part of children being able to progress as far as their community is concerned. The other thing is that when we look at this situation, we understand that it is not perfect. And so the appeal to this board is to approve, for this board to disapprove what the Planning Commission has already done. And I know Mr. Shaw got up and gave a whole bunch, a laundry list of things that they would like. Well, this council's position is to approve or disapprove the Planning Commission decision. It is not to come and restructure this. The Planning Commission put into everything that they needed to put into to determine whether or not St. Luke's met the requirements met by the city. I know the neighbors continue to be concerned about the noise ordinance. Well, there is no issue whatsoever that there is a violation of the noise ordinance. There's a PA system that will be in place, and as we stated before, St. Luke's has a PA system for the baseball team. They have a noise meter that they use to determine that, and that 85 decibel limit is at the property line. We're well away from the property line, but the most important thing is there is no concern. Obviously, with a sporting event, you're going to have crowd noise. You're going to have obviously maybe band noise and that type of thing, but it's important to note that these are the things that come along with this type of situation. And we're asking this committee, this council, to look at our situation, to look at the situation with our children, to look at the needs of our children there, and to understand that we have done everything that we needed to do to make sure that we complied with everything that is required of us. With regard to the buffers, and I know there was a reference to the 2009 decision with regard to our approval, but the buffers that were in place were to be maintained by that community, and they maintained that. And the last thing is that we are required to put in buffers. We're going to put those buffers in and make sure that we comply. I respectfully request and ask and beg of you to take into consideration St. Luke's children and their desires to be a part of this community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else on the list to speak today?
Open that regarding St. Luke's.
Did the gentleman come in? Okay, other speakers that have signed in?
Public hearing.
Pardon me?
For the public hearing.
Oh, okay. All right. So we need to go ahead with the agenda?
The vote.
No, we need to vote.
Oh, the appeal.
Yeah, well, now we go to the appeal itself.
Before the public hearing.
Yes.
Appeals. This is the appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of St. Luke's Episcopal School's application for a PUD to allow multiple buildings on a single building site and planning approval for new lighting, sound system, and bleachers for the athletic area.
Madam President, I move to deny the appeal.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Williams?
This has been one of the more difficult decisions I've had to make. I've sat in the houses of all concerned, and I've looked them in the eyes, and I've been as honest as I know to be. And we are called by means of this appeal to examine the efforts of the Planning Commission, which were extensive, which I witnessed, which Mr. Daves witnessed, and Ms. Rich participated in. What this appeal boils down to is, did the Planning Commission act outside of its authority? Did it do something improper? And the words that we're hearing and the ones that we have acted on for the whole life of this council is, were their acts arbitrary or capricious? And while I am sympathetic to both arguments, the case simply was not made to be arbitrary or capricious. And it will be my full intent to ensure that the city enforces its laws in all regards, regardless of the conditions. We will enforce the PUD, and we will enforce our noise ordinance, so long as I'm a member of this body and have any influence whatsoever. Thank you, Madam President.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davis?
This is a difficult decision. I would say there are certainly the passions are high on either side of this, and the arguments, there are good arguments on either side of this. But again, the question is whether the Planning Commission, who has primary responsibility for these decisions, acted arbitrarily or capriciously. As Mr. Williams indicates, I was here for that Planning Commission meeting. It was an extended discussion in which both sides had an opportunity to fully and fairly state their positions. I can't see any error in the process that was followed by the Planning Commission, and so my vote will be to deny the appeal. Thank you, Madam President.
All right. Anyone else? All right. With that, then, the motion on the floor is to deny the appeal. So those who vote in favor, I guess it's kind of confusing to say it that way, but vote in the affirmative to deny the appeal, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? All right, the appeal is denied.
Public hearings. Today is a public hearing to rezone property at 108 and 114 Center Street and 75, 79, 113, 123, and 129 West Drive, east side of West Drive, 120 feet north of Farronwoods Court, extending to the west side of Center Drive, 625 feet south of O'Shell Road, from R1 to R3.
Okay, we may want to let some of our folks leave before we start this public hearing. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead with the public hearing.
Good morning, Madam President and members of council. My name is Craig Stites with Broad Street Partners, and we are the applicant for this particular PUD and rezoning application. So just wanted to give you some background on the project. We originally tried a project on West Drive, met with the neighbors, Councilwoman Rich and Reverend Scott, who's the head of the POA for Farronwoods. This was about 18 months ago, and we heard concerns over traffic on West Drive. So we moved across the street to some vacant properties and some rundown properties between West and Center. And I think I believe we've got a really good plan. We brought, Councilwoman Rich's, I guess, shepherded the meetings between us and the neighbors through the process. So the benefits, I believe, of the project, we are going to be improving Center Drive at our expense. And there's I guess a burgeoning stormwater issue on Center Drive that we'll be handling our stormwater that currently is running down through to 12 Mile Creek through unpiped matters. We're going to handle that stormwater on our development. Some of the other improvements we're going to make that we negotiated with the Farronwoods residents are connectivity with sidewalk on West Drive, some street lighting to enhance the streetscape improvements on West Drive. The other items that we discussed with the Farronwoods residents were screening and privacy. So we're going to construct an 8-foot masonry wall, some screening with some 12-foot evergreens and the like, and then also a 6-foot privacy wall on West Drive. So all that being said, we had a good working relationship, I believe, with the neighbors at Farronwoods, and we look forward to moving forward with the project. But thank you for the opportunity to speak, and that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone else who would like to speak to this rezoning, please come to the podium.
Sarah Stashak.
Looks like somebody may be.
Yeah.
They're deciding who's going to be first.
Jordan Young.
Yeah, just anybody, since this is a public hearing, anyone is welcome to come
Madam
and speak.
President, I'm just going to apologize to the last speaker. I was trying to count to see who was here. I didn't know if we had enough people to vote at one point, so I apologize to you. It was
Go ahead, sir.
intentional.
Good morning.
Good
My name is Jonathan Young. I live at 123 Center Drive along with my wife, Grace Young. It seems like Broad Street Partners have had a good working relationship with all neighbors except for the neighbors that are most directly impacted by this development, those being there on Center Drive. I know they've had several meetings. I found out about all of these meetings well after the fact. Never had a chance to give my input to the developers, and I find this very disturbing. So I feel like I've just been blindsided by this whole development. My wife and I, we bought into Center Drive as a R1 residential single-family community, and we know that there are some houses that need improvement. There are improvements that need to be done to the area. Our biggest concern is that with this being student housing in itself is inherently disruptive to the neighborhood, not only from the varying schedules of the students to problems with them partying, alcohol consumption, just young, unsupervised adults enjoying their first taste of freedom away from parental supervision. I'm sure if you have kids, you know how disruptive we can be as young adults, and I know I was probably the same way with my parents. This isn't the type of development that I want to walk directly outside of my front door or look outside my front window and see with these types of disruptions. So with the development of the Grove, the Edge, campus quarters, and even new housing directly on the University of South Alabama, I feel that this need for student housing is being filled. Since it's being filled in other areas and locations, I feel that the city of Mobile should help protect the owners who have invested in single-family residences in the area by allowing the area to be more fully developed by other single-family residences, whether creating another Fair and Woods Court-style subdivision, a gated community, something of this nature. This would solve an additional need by providing housing to staff at the University of South Alabama and local businesses that these people support. It would provide housing for those who need the additional space that apartments themselves can't provide. And it would add value to the community, while also protecting all of the R1 residential investments that the people there have already made. As a homeowner on Center Drive, I recognize that these houses do need repair. There's some that are beyond repair that need to be bulldozed and start fresh. Development is good for the area, but I don't want this type of development. Let's be committed as a community to place the right types of development in the proper places, focusing on the communities that already reside there instead of the revenue that a high room count complex such as this could provide. Revenue is important, but the people existing in the community and protecting their lifestyle that they've built for themselves in pursuit of the American dream, I feel that this is more important. Please help us protect it.
All right, thank you.
I just have a
yes,
question,
Mrs.
if I
Rich
may.
has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Did you receive a letter from the planning staff about the public hearings?
I received a letter for the public hearing from the
Right.
Planning
Did you
Commission.
attend?
I did.
Did you speak?
I did.
Did you leave names or contact the council person, which would have been me, to discuss anything or to be invited to meetings? Because
I spoke and I signed in. I didn't have any contact information until the meetings had already passed. I found out about every meeting until well after the fact. It was the day of the Planning Commission meeting when I found out that there were previous meetings.
Okay. And I respect everything that you're saying. I certainly do. This developer will pave the street. Right now, it's a dirt and gravel.
Right.
And the drainage is awful. I don't know if you get affected by the drainage. This development will be of great help and significance to you as a homeowner. And it is a balance. The area is obviously servicing the University of South Alabama, and it does have a mix of residential, both in R1, R2, and R3. And we really do try to do the best we can in working with residents, and I'm sorry that you were not in attendance at the meeting that actually took place prior to the last public hearing. But there were 2 public hearings on this, and to my knowledge, I want to say, did you get both letters?
No, ma'am.
Maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe I'm mixing it up with the last time. Yeah. Did we hold this over initially, and then maybe there could be some?
Madam President,
hang
we're
on.
going to get out of order
Yeah.
here. Yep. So just
Richard?
Yeah, Richard, do you mind?
Because I know this was another issue which you would not have been 300 feet from initially, and then a return of the same applicant to a different set of conditions and different property. So,
Do we need the speaker?
Pardon me?
Do we need the speaker? It just
Do you have any other questions of the gentleman?
no, I guess we could learn that, because
If
I do apologize for not
If I may
including.
make a request or a recommendation, if this is approved, which it looks like there's no way fighting it, because I'm one of few homeowners that'll be remaining on Center Drive after this development and all purchasing has taken place. One of the biggest concerns that I have is with the children, or the kids being kids, they're prone to mischief, just as I was as a kid. Could we make recommendations to ensure that the place has appropriate security? I don't know if there's any plans in place there for security officers to be on site, security cameras around the area, anything that we can do to secure our areas and prevent crime in the area.
Well, all the laws will apply to every neighborhood and every residential corridor. If you have concerns, calling the police to have it checked out would be your right. And this is not University of South Alabama property,
No.
so they're not immune from our codes and our regulations and ordinances for policing. So that would be well within your right to make sure that there is behavior on that parcel, like you would with your neighbor as well, regardless of the type of use.
All right, it's just concerning going from having 6 neighbors to having
Right.
100-plus neighbors. Some complete disruption of the community that we purchased into there.
Okay, we understand. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming. Mr. Olson, if you can just shed some light on who got letters and who didn't on which application.
This application was not held over.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
And even if
Sorry.
it had been, we do not send out new notification letters on holdovers. People that are interested hopefully would have attended the initial meeting, and it's announced at that meeting that it's being held over. But the gentleman is, as Ms. Rich stated, beyond 300 feet from the previous application.
Right.
So he would not have received notice on that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this rezoning? Please come to the podium.
Good afternoon. Zachary Myers, 6201 Old Shell Road. Currently property manager for the Edge Apartments. Just speaking on behalf of where we currently are pre-leased with other apartment communities within the area and the growth within the university. This year we are expecting to see about a 1% within South Alabama, and then they're projecting another 1% increase in enrollment for 2018-2019. With the current addition of the 110 property being built now, we currently are seeing about a 260-bed decrease able to be filled within other student housing communities. So I don't see, and this was the first letter I received was on May 3rd about the notice today, so I wasn't able to attend any other meetings. But I know specifically my property, we're about 47%. Campus quarters, I don't know if they're here today or not, they are at 43%, and another property is at 56% right now. So we are seeing a very negative impact by the 110 community are being built, and to have another one built at the same time does take in, right now does not see warranted with the amount of students coming into South Alabama with the slow growth the university is currently withholding. So,
All right, thank you very much. All right, anyone else in the audience who would like to speak to this?
Hello,
Well, I'm Natalie Montgomery, currently the general manager at The Grove, 175 Cleverton Parkway. Just to kind of piggyback on Zach with the Edge, we have seen a significant decrease in occupancy rates. Right now, I am the property that is 56% full. Most of that is due to a bulk lease that I have with the University of South Alabama. I'm the only one that has that because I currently sit on their land. But normally last year, we were, this current date, we were sitting at about 75% occupancy. It's, I mean, to sit at 56 with a current bulk lease with South Alabama is a tremendously different. I know that the Edge previously, as well as campus quarters, were sitting almost at 90% this time last year. Due to 110 coming in and taking, you know, of course, students gravitate to new builds and things like that because they want something that's new, that we see the decrease. I honestly think that at some point, their occupancy has slowed down a lot. I think at some point, South Alabama just does not have the students to fill up the amount of housing that we have currently in Mobile. Yes, we have other places like University of Mobile, Spring Hill, Bishop State, and things like that, but most of those students tend to be local students who live at home or other conventional housing properties and not student housing where you're gonna have, you know, 2, 3 random roommates that we would just place with you. I think that myself, along with, I don't think Campus Quarters is here, but we were definitely looking to not have that huge impact on the occupancy rates that we currently have of another student housing property coming into Mobile off of O'Shell Road. It's just a lot of it right there, as well as South Alabama is building more housing on property to house those students. I do think that at some point it's going to make a change. I just don't think that change is going to be this year. I know that they're looking into building a football field and things like that. And I think after that point it may change, but as of this year I don't think that there's going to be a significant change because they just don't have the enrollment to cover all of the housing that's currently there, you know, for students. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I just address that?
Mrs. Rich, go ahead.
I find that very interesting, and it's good knowledge for this council to have. It was never discussed at any of the other meetings, and I know that you're more than 300 feet, but it's a very interesting perspective. Everybody is under the impression that the University of South Alabama talks about the growth. It's going in, it just met 50 years, it's turning a corner as far as, you know, making it out into the community and further for students to attend that do need housing when they get here. Right. And I think a lot of this is also for planning purposes, and I appreciate that information.
No problem. Thank you very much. All right, this is still a public hearing, so if there's anyone else who would like to speak to this.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ernest Scott. I reside at 6114 Farron Woods Court. I also serve as the president of the Farron Woods Homeowners Association. I'm here today and to represent my neighbors who were not able to be here today, and that is Ernie and Rachel Quinley, who resides at 6118 Farron Woods Court, Louis Tillery at 6126 Farron Woods Court, and Philip Quinley at 6138, Hank Farnell and Kim Farnell at 6140 Farron Woods Court, and Mrs. Dot Smith at 6142 Farron Woods Court. I'm here today because they asked me to come to voice their approval of this PUD. After meeting with Council, Mrs. Rich, and also the proposed developers with Brad Street, we came to an agreement with some proposed conditions, self-imposed conditions by Brad Street Development. We asking that for the approval of this PUD, and only if those conditions are met and kept in the future. So we ask, and I'm sure that each council person have a copy of those 9 agreements. So we stand in approval of this PUD, and we ask it and we want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this?
Just very, very briefly, I'm Casey Pipes, 2255 Ashland Place. I'm here representing the applicant, Broad Street. This has been a great example of how to work a project through the system, how to work it through the neighborhoods and the concerns. There have been a lot of changes to the plan along the way. The developer has said yes to a lot of things along the way. And, you know, the simple fact is that this area, this property, which is zoned R1, is not going to be redeveloped and have the investment in R1 single-family properties. The road doesn't get paved with that kind of density. The stormwater doesn't get addressed with that. It takes a project to do this. This developer couldn't do it if you were only building 50-bed apartment complex. I mean, they have to have some amount of volume to make this work. And this is tiny compared to the Grove and to the Edge. This is 182 beds. They're in 3 or 4 bedroom standalone cottages. It's a little bit of a different format. The Grove and the Edge are, I think, 800 beds and 500 or so beds respectively. I mean, they're bigger projects. And our guys would not be spending the money to build it, spending the money to fix a road that they don't own and have any responsibility for if they didn't think there was a market for their product. I mean, this is their money at risk, not the public's, but they think there's a market for this. They think the properties, from a legal standard of rezoning, there's been a change in use. It's not going to be developed as R1. It's got to be developed as something else. This is compatible with the adjoining property to the north, which is already zoned something other than R1 for most of the property. Commercial for a lot of it that fronts onto Old Shell. We think this is going to be good for the city and good for the area. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak to this rezoning? Okay, if not, then this public hearing is closed.
Public hearing to determine if the structures at 755 Marine Street, 704 South Carolina Street, 761 Marine Street, and 7375 Kim Avenue are public nuisances and ordering them repaired or demolished.
All right, this is a public hearing for these properties. If anyone is in the audience who would like to speak to any of them, please come to the podium. Okay, with that, then these public hearings are closed.
Today is the public hearing to accept public comments on the proposed application for a transportation alternative program grant to include ADA compliant sidewalks along Dauphin Island Parkway from the south side of I-10 to Old Military Road.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this, please come to the podium. All right, with that, then the public hearing is closed.
Ordinance is held over. 64020, rezone property at 2165 and 2167 Old Shell Road from R1 to R2.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
34021, levy taxes for tax year beginning October 1st, 2017 on all real and personal property and intangibles within the corporate limits of the city of Mobile.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolutions held over. 37196, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license to Reflections Ultra Lounge on North Water Street.
So moved.
No. Move to lay over for 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
4 weeks, yes, ma'am.
Second.
Discussion? All in
Yes, ma'am.
favor?
I just was gonna provide a brief explanation, but if you don't,
Let's,
never mind.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
31283 and 284, authorizing application for TAP grants for ADA compliant sidewalks along north side of Old Shell Road from Parkway Drive west to University Boulevard and from along the Old Shell Road from Myrtle Drive to West I-65 Service Road.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
37285, approve the application of Arlene Petaway, doing business as Quick Shuttle, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate a shuttle service.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
45-286, authorized agreement with AlDOT to transfer ownership and maintenance of Mobile Street from Spring Hill Avenue to Stanton Road to the city of Mobile.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Ordinance is being introduced for the first time, 64022.
This ordinance is level for 1 week by council rules.
Consent resolutions being introduced for the first time, 4288 through 58293.
Motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration for ordinance 48288 through 58293.
Second.
I thought we was going to table.
With the exception
Yeah.
of,
291.
well, 296.
Claire, we're still going to consider it, but we'll table it when it comes up. Right?
We're tabling 291.
Still proper.
4291.
Go ahead and take them up and then table that.
Yeah, that table while we go down.
All right.
Yes.
We got to vote to take them up.
All in favor?
I get lost when too many people are talking up here.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Lambert?
We're taking them, and then we'll just table 4291.
All right.
Okay. So we need to,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
4288, 289, and 290 are declaring the structures at 755 Marine Street, 704 South Carolina Street, and 761 Marine Street public nuisances and ordering them repaired or demolished.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
4291, declare the structure at 7375 Kim Avenue a public nuisance and order it repaired or demolished.
Move to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
46292, name the walking trail at Vickers Park, Loretta Grayson, Fortune.
So moved.
Second, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
58293, authorize removal of weeds, Group 1561.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
CIP resolutions being introduced for the first time, 01294 through 31304.
A motion for immediate consideration of all, no, consideration,
No, all will lay over except for
One.
21296.
Right.
Chris,
Yes. All right.
okay.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
21296, authorize contract with Acre Construction Corporation for Crestview Park swings and drinking fountains.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolutions being introduced for the first time, 01297 through 21305.
Motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of 13298 and 21305. The rest for level for 1 week.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
13298, authorize change order number 2 for contract with Acre Construction Corporation for Medal of Honor Park playground improvements.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Mrs. Rich?
Only because my phone is ringing, and I know that people are very anxious to see this playground come back online since it's so dearly loved and missed right now. I do not have a date. As soon as I do for the opening, I will let the community know. And this is a change order to make some changes that make sense right now, and it's coming out of the CIP for the district, water fountains, and some other improvements that, because they're mobilized, need to be done now. So, thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
21305, authorized performance contract between the city and the University of South Alabama for the purpose of implementing MIT mentoring program.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Call for public hearings. 41302, call for public hearing to consider the application of Mary Taylor doing business as Elegant Knights Transportation Group for transportation service scheduled June 6th. 41303, call for public hearing to rezone property at northeast corner of Airport Boulevard and North University Boulevard from R1 and B2 to B2 scheduled June 20th.
So move.
Second. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Announcements.
Okay, I'm going to start because I have a meeting at 12:30 that I need to get to. June 12th is my district meeting. We will be at St. John's United Methodist Church at 6 o'clock. We are inviting several special guests to speak, and postcards will be going out shortly. So again, that is June 12th, district meeting, St. John's United Methodist Church, 6 o'clock p.m. And I will turn the gavel over to Mr. Richardson to close out the meeting.
Okay. Okay, John?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to recognize the great work that's going on at Kate Shepherd Elementary School and thank them for allowing me to be a small part of that. Yesterday recognized myself and Commissioner Hudson along with many other volunteers for our contributions to this past school year. There's really something special going on at Kate Shepherd, and I applaud Kay Smith, the principal, and all those that are responsible for that. They're always so kind to us, and yesterday was no exception. This past weekend, I was able to go to Ebenezer Baptist Church in the heart of District 4 and surprise the pastor there, Dr. Rudolph Overstreet, and recognize the service that he provides to this city in such a big way, and surprise him by proclaiming a day to be recognized in the event of his union, his matrimony this coming weekend, which I will not be able to be there. And I wished him on behalf of the entire city council many, many years of joy and happiness. He's a great friend to me and is making a real difference in our community. I want to thank the Planning Commission with regard to an issue that would not have been known had it not been for a great involvement with the Community Action Group of Crestview neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that's essentially between Azalea and the university on the south side of government. Very active, Highway 90 that is, very active community. And they discovered that through an administrative action that a gate that had never been opened in most of our lives, that is, was going to be opened. And it was going to create a significant problem for the community and for traffic safety. The Planning Commission, upon my appeal and that of the community, were able to modify the plan unit development for a project going on the old IMS properties, and we were able to deny access to Nob Hill. So I'd like to just thank them for listening and for acting with regard to this very important public safety issue. Lastly, I'd like to announce that I will be absent on 6th of June. I will be with my son in California attending the JH Ranch program, and that will be from the 2nd through the 9th. And I want to make sure that everybody's clear that 2nd through the 9th I will take no phone calls, no emails, and no text unless it comes from my wife. So if anybody thinks that their issue is can't wait, and I'm asking everybody to be respectful there. This is a time between me and my son. I'm not going to answer questions about that event, but I will tell you that I will not, for the first time in 10 years, answer any emails, any texts, or any correspondence whatsoever from the 2nd of June to the 9th of June. Thank you.
CJ.
Thank you, Councilmember Richardson. Greetings to the citizens of District 3. I had a pleasure in going to Maryvale Elementary School off of Dolphinado Parkway on last Wednesday for their career day. I went as career as a politician and a funeral director. The city of Mobile was also represented there through the fire department and also the police department and many other businesses throughout Mobile. I'd like to thank the principal and staff for inviting me out on last Wednesday. I had fun talking to the 4th and 5th graders at the Maryvale Elementary School. On last Saturday, TAD Team Ministries had held their 9th annual Survivors Benefit for Cancer. TAD Team Ministries, for the ones who do not know, is located off of Dolphin Island Parkway, where Pastor Simon is the pastor there. It was great attendance. Did have some fun also. This event was held at the Ville Center, and I had the opportunity to go and bring greetings on behalf of the City Council and the Mayor of the City of Mobile. And I'd like to thank TAD Team Ministries for being involved in the community, especially with the cancer benefit program that they do have every year. On this past Sunday, I was privileged enough to attend the Revelation Missionary Baptist Church, which is located in the Maysville community, where Pastor David Frazier is the pastor there. They had celebrated their 108th church anniversary. It was very well attended and had very nice service on this past Sunday at the Revelation Missionary Baptist Church. Again, congratulations on your 108th anniversary. On this coming Friday, I will have the opportunity to be the speaker at the Craighead Elementary School, which is also located in the Maysville community. They will have their 5th grade completion/graduation on Friday at 9:00 a.m., inviting all the residents in that particular area, especially the parents, to come out for the 5th grade graduation program, where I will be the guest speaker this coming Friday at 9:00 a.m. And remember that District 3 is the place where things are happening. Thank you, Councilman Richardson.
Beth?
Thank you very much. Just like to wish everybody a happy Memorial Weekend, and this is the time where we remember those in the military of all branches who gave the ultimate sacrifice. One way to remember those fallen heroes is to attend the Mobile Pops concert on Saturday evening, which is of course part of the weekend, and that would be at 7 p.m. It's a free concert at Medal of Honor Park, and it's in the Mobile County Bicentennial Pavilion. On June 15th, the district will have its district-wide meeting at the Connie Hudson Senior Center starting at 6:30. The topic is public safety, and invited guests who will address the crowd will be Police Chief Batiste, Public Safety Director James Barber, and Fire Chief Mark Seeley. I welcome everybody's attendance and hope to get a good crowd so that those gentlemen can take some questions, give some comments, and tell us and put us up to date with public safety issues, particularly as it affects District 6. And again, that's 6:30 on June 15th at the Connie Hudson Senior Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Inasmuch as we have successfully driven almost everybody from the room at this particular point, I'd just like to remind everybody that we do have a City Council Finance Committee meeting today in the Council Conference Room at 2:00 p.m. As Mr. Wesch indicated, he will be with us to discuss financial trends that he sees so far this fiscal year and perhaps their impact on our fiscal year 2018 budget. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Devon?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, I want to announce that on tomorrow I will be holding a breakfast briefing at Panini Pete's along with the Downtown Mobile Alliance. This is at their invitation just to come and talk about some of the robust and transformative work that is occurring not only in downtown but in District 2. And then tomorrow at 1:30, I'll be holding a meeting with Dolphin Street business owners to discuss the new downtown garbage collection process. Mr. Bill Harkin and all other pertinent administrative staff will be here for that particular meeting. Want to announce the Africatown Bridge Challenge, which is a 5K run and 1K fun run and walk that'll be held on Saturday, June the 24th. All proceeds will go to support ongoing renovation and refurbishment projects in the Africatown community. I'm proud to have sponsored with District 2 discretionary funds the mural that is currently being installed in the Africatown community, along with the welcome signs that you see as you enter on Africatown Boulevard. I've been also announced that I will not be here for council meeting next week. I will be attending the Next City Vanguard Conference. The Vanguard is an annual experiential urban leadership gathering of the best and brightest young urban leaders. This is what they say, not what I'm saying. Working to improve cities across sectors, including urban planning, community development, entrepreneurship, government, transportation, sustainability, design, art, and media. Each year, Next City selects 40 applicants whose smart ideas, again, this is what they say, not what I'm saying, for cities, experience in the field, and ambition for the future all show great promise. The conference is free. The conference is free, and they are providing me also with a stipend to cover some of the travel costs. And I'm proud to have been selected as one of the 40 to convene in Montreal, Canada on next week. And so I will not be in attendance for our council meeting on next week. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Okay, it's down to me. I would like to announce that I will be holding my Trinity Gardens community meeting Thursday, June the 15th at 6 p.m. That meeting will be held at the Dutch Community Center. We're asking all of our citizens in the Trinity Gardens area to please come out. We're going to have a number of officials, senior officials from the administration in attendance. And at all of my meetings, we talk about jobs and job training. That's going to be at all of my meetings for those who are looking for jobs and those who want to know how they can upgrade their skills. This is a place that you need to be. We're going to talk about CIP projects. We're going to talk about the new updates that's coming at the Trinity Gardens. We're going to get a public safety advisory regarding crime and what the citizens need to do to help prevent crime. So we're looking forward to having a great meeting. It's also a time for citizens to come and make known what it is that they would like to see done. You know, oftentimes people say council members, they're not doing anything, or what you're really saying, they're not doing what you want them to do, and they don't know what you want done unless you tell them. You can call them, email them, come to meetings, but if you don't participate at all, no one will ever know what's on your mind. If you want someone to start working on what you think they ought to be working on, you need to get active and share that with whoever your elected council member is. Today we voted to name the park at the Figgers Center after Ms. Flo Rita Fortune. Ms. Fortune worked for over 50 years for the Recreation Department in numerous of parks, and she became a leader in her capacity, and she is known throughout the recreation community. She worked almost in all of the parks. She's pretty much worked in all of them, and I wanted to make sure that we honored her. I will be getting with the family. We're going to set a time to designate a marker in her behalf at the Figgers Park, and we'll figure out when that is going to be, but we want to get the family out there, get the press out there, and put up something to memorialize her hard work in the community. do we have any announcements?
Yes, and I apologize. I know we're in a hurry now. I'd just like to announce a Public Safety Committee meeting for June 20th at 2 o'clock. Not sure of the exact location, but it's to discuss the proposed ordinance dealing with changes to police, I guess, protocol, for lack of a better term. That was on our last week's agenda, and it was decided it would go to committee. So June 20th, 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, then, there are no other announcements. This meeting is adjourned.